What if you could step inside the mind of your favorite authors? Not their book, not their blurb, but their thinking. Welcome to the author's mind. This is where fiction is dissected, decoded, and rebuilt from the inside out. With your host, Shilo Creed. Each episode is a deep, honest conversation with working fiction authors. If you write, if you read, if stories matter to you, this is your place. Welcome to the author's mind. I am Shilo Creed, your host. I am so excited to be here with Amy Vansant today. She is an amazing author, marketer. She has so many books on the market. We have got cozy mysteries, we have got rom-coms, thrillers, and kilties. Amy, can you tell us about your books? I especially would love to hear about your kiltie series.
That actually came about because my husband and I were talking about something, and he just kidding said it would be a good title for a book to call it Kiltie is Charged and have it be about a guy in a kilt. So for some reason I decided to build a whole series around that comment, which I don't know if I should, recommend that to people all the time, but that's what I did.
I love it. I read the title and was like, oh my goodness, that is one of the most inviting titles. Like, I want to read that book. I didn't even know you had that series, so I only saw it a couple days ago, but it looks so intriguing. How many books have you written altogether?
It's over 40, but under 50, somewhere in there. I've lost track at this point.
Too many to keep track of, I see. So you have your Pineapple Port series, and you said that is 26 books in the series. You have a new release. Is it out yet, or is it just on pre-order?
Yeah, it just came out 2 days ago, December 9th.
Awesome. And give us just a little bit of a rundown on that series. It's a really long-running series, which is phenomenal. So how did that series get started, and how have you held it up through 26 different books? Does it follow, a specific character, or do we change characters?
No, there's the main character is Charlotte, who the whole idea came about. I was visiting my husband's mother at the place that she lives over on the west coast of Florida. That's like a little, what do they call them? They're not mobile homes, but they're manufactured homes, and a retirement community. And it occurred to me that it would be funny if you were a kid growing up there, because it was just such a different vibe, because everybody was over 55. So that's kind of how it started, and then it was kind of one of those, and what if she solved crimes while she was there kind of things. So I wrote it, and I had no idea at the time that it was a cozy mystery. I had never heard of cozy mysteries. To me, it was just sort of a lighthearted mystery, and then people started telling me that it was their favorite cozy mystery series. And I was like, I guess I wrote a cozy mystery series, and I started marketing it that way.
I love that. And I kind of am in the same boat. I write rom-coms under the name Elysian Hunt, and those kind of are, I didn't write them as cozy mysteries, but they kind of fall under the same thing. And it's funny when readers tell you the things you need to market your book, right? They're like, hey, this is what I really loved about it. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, Kiltie actually worked that way too, because Kiltie is an urban fantasy, but I didn't know that at the time, and I just called it like a romantic fantasy, basically. And people were like, no, that's an urban fantasy. That's basically what it is. I was like, okay. So learn as you go.
That's right. And I think that's part of really the author's journey, is sometimes we just set out and then we discover what we did later on. It's so fun. Now you also write thrillers. So tell us a little bit about those.
That started with the She McQueen series, and she is technically Charlotte from the Pineapple series mother that she thought didn't exist, but does. And I just thought it would be neat to tie them together to try and drag the fans from Pineapple over to She McQueen. Like, why not make them related? And she basically has a hotel. Her father had a hotel, and he was in the military, and he decided he wanted to spend a second well, the end part of his life, helping people and having veterans come and stay at the hotel, but he can't stop doing what he likes to do either. So he was kind of, he and the veterans and whatnot were kind of running little, not scams, but actually helping people that needed help. And then she comes, and she's always been a tracker and a person who helps people. So she kind of came in and took over.
Wow, I love that. So the idea behind connecting two series is, I think, one that a lot of authors toy with. Probably we think about, we wonder, will it work? Looking back on it, now that you have two major series out that are connected, would you do it again? Would you do it differently? Or, what would you say on that? Was it worth doing?
I don't see any downside to it, because if you know about the other series, then you almost feel like an insider that you figured out that they're related, maybe earlier than I actually flat out stated. In fact, two rom-coms that I wrote very early on, I made the lead guy is actually the son of Mariska, who is one of the older ladies in Charlotte's world. So in my head, pretty much all my books take place in my universe, so they can get to know each other if I want them to. Now, there's not a lot of crossover with like the urban fantasy, which happens to take place in California with everybody else, but I could have them show up because they're in my world as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. I love that how you put it. It is your world, and as authors, I think we really some authors are probably scared to really build their world or own it. Right? They're still in that mindset of, oh my goodness, can I do this? But I see the power in owning your world. I love that you have stepped into it and that you're so comfortable there. So I would encourage authors, take hold of the world that you're building, because it's your space.
The downside that could ever happen would be if you screwed up your facts. And frankly, if someone noticed that you screwed up a fact, that somebody was here or there in two different books, like that means you have so many rabid fans that who cares that you messed up? You can just go back and fix it.
Exactly. Or you can just tell them, great job, I'm so proud of you. You found the Easter egg I left in there.
Exactly. I planned that all along.
Just to see if anybody would notice. Yeah, really cool. I love your journey. Did you always know that you were going to be a writer?
Yes, actually. That's pretty much all I ever wanted to do. That's all I did until about 1996, I think. And the internet was just starting to show up. And because it was pretty hard to make a living as a writer, I was doing a lot of freelancing and whatnot. I started messing around doing local businesses' websites. I kind of taught myself with some software that was out at the time to do it. And that took off. So it was a lot easier to eat if I did that. And I kind of just stopped writing all during the whole beginning part of, when Kindle and everything started to rise. So that was kind of a bummer because I could have been way ahead of the curve, but eventually I came back to it.
Yes. Now, how do you feel about Kindle Unlimited? Where are your books at? What do you feel about that program?
All my books are in Kindle Unlimited. I've tried them not, and I actually make probably 60-40, 70-30. The money comes from Kindle Unlimited page reads rather than sales. So I kind of can't leave at this point. It would be pretty tough.
I hear you there now.
It's a bummer, that you kind of put all your eggs in one basket, because Amazon's been doing a pretty good job of not promoting indie books. Especially in the last couple of years. So it gets harder and harder every year, but I still don't think I could make up the money I'd lose by, throwing them at Barnes and Noble and whatnot.
Exactly. If there are authors here who don't know what Kindle Unlimited is, it's an exclusive program through Amazon. They go on for free. Everyone who has subscribed to Kindle Unlimited can read it, and you get paid per page that is read. The hard part is that your ebook cannot be for sale anywhere else on the planet. And Amazon does look, don't they?
Yes.
They keep track. They will get you. Yes. So that's Kindle Unlimited. I have found with some of my series, if I put them in Kindle Unlimited, they do really well. and then with a distinctly different genre, I see like, wow, that was pointless to put that in there. So I have really found that certain readerships are in Kindle Unlimited, like in a strong numbers, and they really are voracious readers. And then there's other genres who seem like they just aren't there as much, like, especially like the Christian sci-fi that I write, Plunged. That one, I don't see Kindle Unlimited being really strong for that one. We have tested it. Interesting side note on Kindle Unlimited. So now that you're back into writing, what's your pace? How many books do you write per year? I know it's probably not ever a solid number, but like what would be your comfortable pacing for a book?
The most I've ever done in a year is 6, and it's usually more 4 or 5 back and forth.
4 or 5. And do you split that between your series, since you do have the multiple series? Do you try to feed each series kind of at the same time?
Yes, I try to do at least 2 pineapples a year. They sell the best, so that works out best for me. Kilty, I've pretty much wrapped up, so I don't have to do that anymore. And She McQueen, I'm still on the fence. I wrote the last one as if it could be the last one, but it's not necessarily.
Awesome.
Because I'm starting to write more thrillers now, so.
Okay, so a whole new series setup?
I'm not sure yet whether it's going to be a series or not. I actually have an agent that is pushing things now, so I'm going to also be indie, but I'm also letting him see what he can do. So it depends on what takes and what doesn't.
Yeah, I hear you. What an amazing journey. So many books on the market, so your fingers in so many different things. And I know we're going to get to talk a little bit later about your incredible marketing that you help other authors with, including myself. So I'm super excited about that. Looking at your series, would you recommend that other authors write in series? That's their advice for authors, is write in a series. And now you're talking about writing a single and kind of going in a new direction, which you probably needed your backlist, right, to get to the point where you are working with agent and all of those things. But what would you say as far as series go? Is that where the power is?
I think that's the easiest way to get sales, definitely. I have friends that only do single books, which works better in some genres than others. Thriller would be one where it does work. But even like my rom-coms, I have 2. I have another one coming out next year, and then I have 2 that were part of a series, but then I wrote a third in between there. It's hard to do marketing when you're split in too many different directions. So I didn't want to start a series with this third rom-com that I wrote, but I also didn't want to have it just floating out there and not connected to anything, making it harder for me to promote. So what I did was, on Amazon, you can just set up anything and call it a series, basically. So I just called it the Amy Vansant rom-com series, which includes the first 2, which are a series unto themselves, and then the third, and then the fourth. So all my rom-coms will be a series, even though they're all different people.
That's a really neat trick for all of us to be aware of. I love how you write cross-genre. I'm also a cross-genre writer. What do you do when you sit down to actually work on characters, write the book? How do you keep the voice different? What do you find going from urban fantasy romance to cozy? How do you keep the tone and the vibe different?
It's probably easier for me because I'm physically incapable of writing anything that doesn't have a sense of like humor to it, which I'm actually struggling a little bit with now, because now that I'm working on this thriller, I want it to be a little more dark and gothic-y, but I'm still making jokes. So all my characters probably sound a little bit alike in that sense. They all have their own voices, of course, but it's sort of the thread that runs through everything that I just have to do, unfortunately. I can't stop myself.
I don't think it's unfortunate. I think it's amazing, especially to be able to produce humor that people enjoy. It's probably something that a lot of authors really actually struggle with. So there are probably a lot of people feeling jealous right now that you're like, I just can't stop. And they're like, I wish I could start. So how do you think?
It's a good way to stay away from AI too, because if AI starts to write more and more books and people are worried about that, I don't think it's ever going to develop a decent sense of humor. So if that becomes the thing that people go to read real human books, maybe I'll have an edge there.
Yes, I am positive that you will. On writing humor, does it just come to you? Is it just in your head that way? Do you develop a scene that would be funny on purpose, or how does writing humor work for you?
I don't think I'm unique in the sense that I hear my characters in my head. So if I'm writing out a scene, lots of times I'll just basically write a script and just very fast, just two people talking to each other because I can see them and hear them in my head talking to each other. And usually just the humor will come naturally from that. And then I'll go back and fill in what things look like and what people look like and things like that.
Interesting. I love that idea of just letting yourself get it on the page and then coming back and doing the work later. I think that is brilliant.
I do the same thing with scenes too. Like if I do a lot of my thinking in the shower, for example. So if I'm in the shower and I'm thinking about my characters that are in the book that I'm working on currently, and I kind of picture a scene happening that has nothing to do with where I am at that time, I'll just go and I'll just write the scene, and then I'll just tuck it away in the document, and knowing that it'll come up later. So if you ever find yourself stuck, stop trying to write real linearly. Oh my God. Linearly.
Yeah.
And just let yourself just write scenes. Like if you know somebody's gonna, be running down a forest path with somebody chasing them later, but you're nowhere near that thing, just go ahead and write that scene. It doesn't matter.
That is such good advice. I absolutely do the same thing. Often come out of the shower and go scribble. Oh, I got to get this down. Just hold on. Don't talk to me. I got to get this in. I definitely hear you on that. That is a great place to think. I find that like driving or when I'm doing something that doesn't really take much concentration, something that I can do without thinking about it, that's when I'm the most creative, is when, my body is sort of doing something, walking, driving, getting a shower, washing my hair. That's when a lot of ideas come up for me as well.
That's actually a thing. I forget what the name for it is, but it's a thing. Like, if you're busy doing something mindless, it frees up your mind to wander and figure things out.
Well, it works. So yeah, if you ever need ideas, a hot shower is in order.
Just don't do anything.
Yeah, right. I find too that a lot of times I'll get a really good piece of dialogue, like a really good back and forth, and it doesn't have a place to go in the book. Like I know the characters and I know who's saying what, but it doesn't have a place, doesn't have a scene to go in yet. So I'll just go write that down and it will go in. So, it will go in and fit in there somewhere. So I'm a notebook girl. I always write everything out freehand. So I actually literally go through my notebooks at the end of a book and I call it sewing. I'm like, well, I just have to sew in, these brighter threads. So
these good lines that I've thought of. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's all part of the process. I love that you said that you have the Kilty series because of a comment that your husband made. Super cool way to start writing a book, and then it actually turned into a whole series. And the pineapple port you had kind of covered. How do ideas come to you? Not so much just for scenes, but like, do you develop a series on purpose, or has it just kind of, have you like, oh, well, I wrote book 1. What about book 2?
Good question. I think usually I just start trying to think of, well, I used to just try and think of a good idea. Now I try and think of what I think will sell, whatever happens to be happening in the world, without getting political or anything. Just things that seem trendy somehow, but not so trendy that once they pass, they won't sell. So, like, for instance, I think the last 2 years I did a Christmas book for pineapple, just because that's something that every year will resurrect itself. So, so that works. And then I'll also just look and see what's selling now. I think I did Pineapple Maids because that was when it seemed like every book had a maid in it there for a while, because in the end I'm trying to make some money.
Exactly. And there is always that marriage of your creative process and then what the market is hungry for. And I think starting out, almost every author, I think, we come out of the gate just writing what we know, what we love, the story that's in there. Go do that. You have to do that part. But there does come a place in your writing journey where you really have to step up to the plate and say, okay, if I want this to produce income, then I'm going to have to do this with goals. How do you do your market research? Are you just kind of looking at the bestsellers lists, or where do you get that feel for what is popular from?
I can just a lot of flipping through Amazon, looking at what seems to be doing well. You can actually, I think it's maybe on my AXP site, I wrote down a tip where you can edit the URL in Amazon so that it spits out the titles that have the most reviews for whatever year. So I can do this year, the most reviews, and then I can see, what has been selling the most, basically just kind of based on reviews, since I can't really tell what's sold the most.
My mind is blown right now. This has been sitting on your website that I go on a lot, and I don't know.
It's there somewhere.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to try to put a link directly to that in the description.
Actually, if you sign up, if it's free to sign up, so if you just create an account on Authors XP, and then there's a author's dashboard that shows up after you sign in, and then on that dashboard, I think in the third column, there's it's like Amy's notes or tips or something like that. It's in there.
I have never been in there. We're gonna finish this episode. I'm gonna go in there and start reading. I'm super excited. Wow. So there is a way to look at the books that got the most reviews in a certain year. That is a game changer. Thank you. That is a piece of pure gold. So you said you always wanted to be a writer. That was, always a part of who you were. When did you know that? How old do you think you were?
I was super, super young when I wrote Winnie the Pooh. So I just basically kind of rewrote the book my own way, and I think that was probably a tip-off that that's what I wanted to do. And then also I used to ride horses, and I would go around and tell the other girls at the barn that I would write a story about them and their horse, and then I would write it in a little tiny piece of paper and draw little pictures on it and sell it to them for $0.25.
So, wow, you have been an entrepreneur since girlhood. I love that. Oh, that is really cool. Neat. And I know you had mentioned the Christmas books, and I have a series with a publisher, and we have one Christmas book out. And he actually only orders 2,000 copies of that a year, and he only releases it during the Christmas season. So it's actually kind of hard to get your hands on. So that is one fun way that he has played with the scarcity, right? Because that's one thing.
Creating demand.
Right, because you feel like, oh, well, I'll go buy that later, just whenever, I don't have to do that right now. But that is a way that he has really built scarcity into that book, and we have like a waiting list every Christmas. Like, wait, I have to have my copy. Having those themed books can really be a powerful part of a series if you can fit it in there. So what is the hardest part of the writing process for you? What do you find the most difficult?
Probably just when I get stuck, because I'm doing it less now. I'm starting to plan ahead a little bit more, but I'd always been a pantser, so I would just write, and then whatever came out, like sometimes I had no idea how the book was going to end, who was going to kill who, just had no idea. So now I try and plot it out a little bit better, and that gives me stuff to think about, so I have things to write.
That is so interesting. If any listeners don't know, there's terms there. You're either a plotter who wants an outline, and there's a whole spectrum there. You can either be somebody who wants every single scene broken down and you know exactly what happens, or you can be a pantser and you're flying by the seat of your pants, so you don't know what is happening until you write it. And I definitely pantsed my first couple books. Maybe my first 4 or 5 books were, same as you, just was like, oh, let's see what happens. And then I discovered that if I want speed, if I want to be able to write more books that are good faster, then I need to have some sort of planning. And I am not an outliner to the point where I will go and have a 20-page outline, but if I'm going to write a book fast, then I do need to know what's going to happen. For me, part of that process is once I get a plot, which is, 6 or 7 main points, and I know the characters, then I feel like that process can go really fast. Some books I've written 90,000 word novels in 3 weeks because they were, oh man, it was my heart book and it just came out. And then sometimes, it takes 3 weeks, 4 weeks to write a 22,000 word chapter book. So they're all different. So moving from being a pantser into something of a plotter it's an interesting journey, but it does increase your speed for sure. What would you say to a beginning writer, somebody who is just working on their first fiction book? What would be your best piece of advice after writing all these books and learning about the industry, the marketing, just everything that it takes to be an author? What would you tell them?
My main piece of advice is always just keep writing, because I know that sounds pretty simple, but lots of people will stop dead because they want to market or whatever, and they'll spend months like trying to find different marketing paths to go down and things like that. And honestly, you're never going to make more money marketing one book than you will putting out the second book. And if you have a series like we talked about earlier, that's also the best way to do it, because if you get somebody hooked on the first book, then hopefully they'll read the second and the third and the fourth, and you can also maybe eventually make the first book free or 99 cents or whatever to try and get people into the series so that they end up buying the rest of the books as you go, which is what I did with Pineapple, and it made a huge difference back in the day. So you just have to keep writing more books, and you also get so much better. Like, I thought I was doing okay when I first got back to writing. What was that, 10 years ago, I guess now? And the stuff that I wrote then, when I look at it with today's eyes, makes me cringe. So I definitely want to, you just get better and better and better.
You do. And I remember I've been on your newsletter for years and years. So I remember one of your newsletters, you were talking about bad adverbs and how terrible, words that end in ly are. And if you ever see them, you have to go back and rework that. That is stuck in my head literally for years. I've been writing multiple books, and Amy Vansant has been in my head rent-free saying, don't,
no
does that end in ly? You have to kill that word.
I use it sometimes. But.
Right. Sometimes you really can't get around it. And sometimes I look at the grammar gymnastics I'm doing to get rid of the ly word. I wonder.
Sometimes it's not worth it. It's more like when you have people just saying, he said calmly, he said meanly, he said, it's just like, okay, it's just distracting to have to think about how they're saying it. Like, I'd rather figure it out from the context than be told and whatnot.
Exactly. Show versus tell. Yeah. But so anyway, I just wanted you to know your voice has been in my head for a long time. So
I'm sorry.
No, it's a good thing. It's a blessing. Oh man. I know all of us authors are probably really influenced by books we read. So what has been your very favorite fiction book that you've ever read?
Ever? I mean, if it was going to be ever, then I would have to go back to like some really old cliche things like Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle and Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, and like just things that are just sort of were big when I was in graduate school for literature. So that would probably be the things like overall.
Right. Do you think that those works influence the way that you write?
I think I've always liked the humor that Vonnegut had in things, and also like John Irving. I'm coming closer to him. Not that I'll ever write as well as him, but just the depth of the people in his books, and like how much you get out of just reading about their interactions and the lives that made up those people. I've been getting more into that than the quick, jumpy books.
Right. So that's a really huge subject. How do you develop your characters? How much time do you spend getting to know a character before you put them on the page?
Pretty much not at all. But they develop as they go. And because I basically, I write maybe 33% of a book, and then I go back to the beginning and I kind of start again, like going over it. and then I'll do the next third, and then I'll start at the beginning again, and it keeps going like that, because as I'm writing, I'm always thinking of things I want to put back there anyway, so I'll just keep writing notes back, and usually by the time I'm halfway through a book, or maybe a little bit more, I've figured out who these people are, but I don't necessarily know exactly who they are when it starts. And 9 times out of 10, when I start even a pineapple, I'll change who the killer is halfway through, because it just seems like too obvious the person I was going to make, or just it doesn't fit for some reason.
Right. Wow. I love that flexibility, and that you just give yourself the permission to start. I think that's probably a huge thing that authors need to hear. Give yourself the permission to start. You can go back and tweak it and change it and fix it later. Right. Wow, that's really beautiful. It was completely unexpected. But when I asked that question, I thought you'd be like, well, I blah, blah, blah. I have this system and that system. And you're like, I don't spend any time getting to know them. I just write.
It's just like meeting a person, basically. I mean, we hear them talking in our heads anyway. So, and then as you go, oh no, she wouldn't have done that. And you're like, oh, I just figured out something about her. So now I have to go back and make sure she doesn't do anything like that, because now I know she's not like that.
Exactly. And I do the same thing. Since I am a notebook writer, anytime one of those things happens, I go up to the top of the page and I put a big star on the top of that page and I write, go back and fix blah, 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 so that I don't forget.
The fact that you use actual paper and pen, blows my mind, because I do exactly what you do, but all in the Word doc. So that way I can, because I'm constantly going down and grabbing paragraphs that I wrote 2 weeks ago and then shifting them back up.
Okay, yeah, so that would be a really interesting ability to have that I don't. The reason that I don't write on the computer is because it's correcting me all the time. Every misspelled word, every grammar problem, and I have a very difficult time leaving those alone, right? So whenever that red line shows up, or that little, whatever the mark is that it does when I'm writing, I come out of my flow and I go back and I fix that. And I'm always like going back, fixing, and there's no flow for me.
I actually use Grammarly,
okay,
which is you can get as an add-on to Word. When you use it, automatically turns off words checkers, which you can turn off anyway, but it turns that off, and then it uses its own, but then you can close that window, because I do the same thing sometimes. I'll get wound up because there's just too many errors, because I'm just typing fast and it starts to bother me. And then I start to drag because I'm fixing them. So I basically leave Grammarly off until I know I'm doing like the third pass on things, because then I care. But before that, I don't care if there's spelling mistakes or typos.
Exactly. Yeah, but that has really been my main reason for sticking with the notebook, because it allows me to be in that place. And the computer also has all those tabs at the top that are so tempting. Oh, I should go check my mail. I should go do this. So for me, it's like it's a place that I put myself, right? Like I have my music on in my earbuds, and I have my notebook in front of me. Like that's my creative space. So
whatever works for you, it works.
Exactly. Now there's a question: do you ever listen to music while you're writing?
No, I'm a big silence fan. I like music. It's not that I hate music.
Okay.
But yeah, I like silence.
Silence while writing. I cannot imagine. That is so funny. I cannot imagine that. Like, I do not want to write without music. And I like Christian hip hop. I'm like rap, whatever. And people are like, how could you have all those words in your ears and be writing different words? I'm like, I don't know, but it works. So.
No, I'd be too distracted. I'd be like you with the corrections.
Corrections, exactly. Exactly. I love how similar our like basic style is of how we keep notes and keep track of things, and yet we do it so differently. And it's amazing that all of us authors have our own little tweaks and things that we do, and it still comes out eventually to be a well-polished book. What skill do you think you've had to work the most on as a writer? Like where was your weakest point that you've really seen yourself grow in?
Point of view. I always had this sense that I wasn't describing things enough, but I also didn't want to slow down the book with too much description. And it finally got into my head that by describing things through the point of view of the person who is basically narrating that chapter, whose point of view it is, that chapter. Because I don't write third person omniscient very often. That pretty much solves the problem. That was the thing that was missing that I couldn't figure out.
Wow. So what do you write in now?
I write in either, the one I'm doing now is actually all first person, but I always have multiple points of view. I don't like writing a book that it all comes out of one person's head, because of Sookie Stackhouse, the True Blood series, but it wasn't called that when it was a book. I forget what it was. The Southern Vampire series. It was.
Okay.
I loved those books for a while, and maybe come around 4 or 5 books into it, I was sick of her. Everything came out of her head. It was just her all the time, and her whining about that, and her whining about this, and then her okay with that same thing. And it's not I'm not going to say it was the writer's fault. And I'm sure plenty of people read the whole series and had no problem with it. But for me, I just got tired of not seeing anyone else's point of view, or seeing her through someone else's eyes. So usually what I'll do is have at least 2 characters. The one I'm doing now has 2. All the other books usually have 3 or 4. So like Charlotte is the main character in Pineapple Port. I'll have a chapter that's from her point of view, and then maybe one of the older ladies' point of view doing something, and then, it just switches around so you can kind of see things. And that way you don't get boxed into this, oh, I can't show that because she's not there problem.
Yes. I always write in first person present tense. So most first person writers write in past tense. So it is literally like the character is telling you that happened and then that happened. I can't do that. So it's present tense, like it's happening now. And you're 100% right that writing first person definitely limits you as to what a character can know, how they figure it out. You can't just jump into your villain's head and be like, oh, and this was over here was happening, so that, you're worried about it, reader. So it definitely makes you plan more. And I think that I have grown a lot as a first-person writer. Like you said, you go back to your first couple books and you're like, oh, I would change some things about that.
I've gone back and edited them.
Yes. And so I wonder, how many times could you do that? Like
yeah, probably if I could, I would just do it all the time. But when you've got 40 books behind you, it's kind of hard to keep rewriting them all. So yes, I think I might be okay for a while.
Yeah, and I think every time I go back and reread one, the desire is there to tweak it, to change it. I think I would forever be doing that. But the book that I'm writing next, this will be the first time that let me go back a step. Plunged is written in double first person. So you have 2 main characters, and then each chapter alternates between the 2 of them. So they're both
That's what I'm doing right now, too.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. I've done multiple books that way. Quinn Knightley, my Archer series, that one is written in double first person. But this next book that I'm writing is going to be first chapter from your hero's point of view, second chapter from the villain's point of view. And I've never done that before, so that will be a stretch. And he's like it's like a Nephilim kind of villain. It's not like even just human. So it'll be a really interesting stretch. I'm looking forward to growing in that and seeing how it turns out.
Yeah, I have more fun writing the villains. There's a couple bad people early on in the Pineapple series that I found myself spending too much time writing from their point of view because it was so much fun.
Your dark side came out. That's what my husband always says. He's like, yeah, well, if you ever needed to know how to rob a bank or, get rid of a body, you should ask my wife. She's a writer. She knows. No. And I often say, like, if people were watching my Google searches, they would definitely wonder about me because I'm like, how do you break into a bank, right? Because your villain has to be able to do logical things that work.
Oh yeah, if Dateline ever got a hold of my computer, I'd be in big trouble.
Exactly the way my husband is like, oh, I don't know about that. It'll be all right. So, do you read books on writing, like craft or skill? What is your take on learning about writing that way?
I read Stephen King's On Writing, which I really liked, but I haven't in a long time, no.
Okay. I have probably read a ton of books on writing, and there was one, it must have been a webinar. Somebody was talking about this book by Dean Koontz, and they're like, it's out of print, you can't get it anymore, it costs $500, and it would be like the best book you will ever have on writing. So I like have to Google it right away. It's I think it was how to write to market, how to write fiction for mass market. Anyway, and I found a copy for $100. And this was at a point in my life where $99 was significant, especially for something like writing. But I got a copy of that, and I will tell you, there was one chapter in the middle that really changed things for me. It was like, I think I knew what he was saying before, but I couldn't have articulated it. And because I couldn't have articulated it, I couldn't like actively make sure that my books were doing what he said to do, which was pretty much, don't ever write a delay. You have to write problems, and because of this, that happens. I don't know, it was an epiphany moment for me. It was like, don't just delay your character by this or that happening. Like, it really has to be there because it's moving the story forward. So anyway, side note.
It was $100 well spent then.
It absolutely was. I was really glad I didn't have to pay $500 for it, which I would have to do today. Amy, I have had a blast talking with you today about your writing journey, and I know that our listeners have gotten so many incredible tips, tricks, and just an in-depth look at what it looks like to be a writer, to put it down and then come back to it years later, because it's just who you are. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. I am Shilo Creed. This is The Author's Mind. Check the description below for links to Amy's website, to her books. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. And I will see you next time.